want to say this. Today is Veterans Day. Thanks to all of our veterans who have served our country, served each other. They fight for one another. God bless you. God bless America. Today, the 11th of November.
Amen.
A very special day. I want to say, my dad was in the Army. Fort Stewart, Camp Stewart back then. Love you, Dad. Dave Baker, my brother-in-law, Kurt Ham, 26 years in the Marine Corps. Wow.
Redoing the studio.
Yeah, and that studio, I got to tell y'all something.
I'm
You
redoing
better
the studio.
always invest in your people. When you've got an executive producer like
I
Brendan
look
Martin,
like I'm a mess, but I'm really just redoing everything.
well, but you've been working all weekend. We did a Friday pop-up show at noon about the situation with the Florida basketball coach. We did another show Saturday evening about 7:30 p.m. Central, talking about the SEC games of the day, Florida at Texas, Ole Miss, Georgia, South Carolina at Vanderbilt. Man, I tell you what, that's a job redoing the studio. So we got a lot to cover today. Coach Ellis Johnson checks in from over in South Carolina. I'm going to tell you what, there's some guests you'll do anything to get them on, and Coach Ellis Johnson is
He's
one
that
of them.
guy. He's just
He is
that
that
guy.
guy.
He's that important.
Yeah,
Sorry.
he is that good.
Sorry,
He
not
knows-
sorry. He's that
Hey.
guy. He's back in. He's the
And
guy.
by the way, let's bring him. Smash that
let's bring him in.
subscribe button
Let's
in the
smash
bottom
it.
right-hand corner of your screen, and
It's Coach.
allow notifications on your Android and iPhone. And folks, get pen and paper handy
Get it.
because the coach is in session. And when Coach Johnson walks in the room, you better be sitting upright, have your shirt tail tucked in, yes or no, sir, and establish eye contact with him because this guy knows football. Coach, I want to say, how cool was the 50th reunion of the Citadel over the weekend? Was that in Charleston, or did y'all get another one of those gorgeous beaches over in South Carolina? Coach, can you hear us? Hopefully. Coach, can you hear us? He should be hearing us.
Disconnected. Coach, what you did when you disconnected and you reconnected, you probably changed the setting. So just go back to that setting action we were talking about with the icon, and then we select it, and we go to audio, and then we select the whole thing, or if not, detach your Bluetooth. Yep. We'll see if he works that out. All right, Coach. If
Okay.
not, I'll work it out with you. Let's get
But
back to the viewing audience. Hi, everybody.
Brendan, let me ask you something. On a weekend like this, there were a lot of big games, and we're saying that every weekend there's a lot of big games. I imagine that the TV people didn't think it would be this good because you're glued to your TV sets, and we're watching games outside of our own backyard. That's what I think they like the most.
No, I don't think anyone thought it was going to be this fun. I think we did, but we didn't. I think we all wanted to bitch about it. I think this is just soap opera for us, So it's like, it's fun to complain because, then you don't have to bitch about your own life. I mean, sports has kind of always been that. So I don't get too harsh on the people that get all harsh on like the fact that there's a lot of like fandom. Like, that's what part of it, right? Like, part of it's to be pissed and throw your beer and be disgusted with your team and want your coach to be fired. I mean, that's part of being a fan. It's your right when you buy the jersey, right, to be the fan.
Yeah.
So I get it. And then obviously you're classy. It's how your mama raised you. You don't want to be a total jerk about anything. So obviously you want to keep it in the road. But I mean, and that's where you go to places like in the SEC. That have class, That's why it's neat to see, at least Texas and Oklahoma be ingested into the SEC, not only perform, but really have great attitudes from all the feedback that I'm getting, everyone coming back from these road trips.
Hey, I love the new stuff in the background. That looks really good. That looks freaking awesome. You're getting there.
We're getting there. No, seriously, it's like a whole thing. Because I need multiple monitors, and I want to make a green room so I don't have these problems. I think Coach is trying to get so I can at least not bother.
Brendan, I'm gonna throw something at you.
Yeah.
Old man Brown says there are a few things in life uglier than a half-finished painting, but one thing that is cool is a half-finished studio. If that's half-finished, that looks really good. So
Well,
Yes,
it's
man.
not. It's just that we're here. You know what? It's not that we're upgrading. So when you upgrade with cables and wires, you
Yeah.
got to get all because everything just starts falling off the wire because you're running Cat 5 and Cat 6 all around, and you're like, okay, this is a problem.
There you go. I don't know how many gigabytes of DRAM you have in there, but that's
We
a
need
lot.
more. Hey,
But
Coach, if you're there, I kind of love you, man. Like we're back to that black screen. I don't know what we did for the black screen, and I wish I knew what we did. But
we're powering all sources to get the best signal possible. So,
Rob,
Coach,
you could talk to Coach on your phone, and you could have him on speakerphone and just keep him close to your phone and talk to him if you wanted to ask him questions. It's the only other thing is you could have him on speakerphone like Buddy does, and you just hold him right there
yeah.
if you wanted to do
Um,
that. But that's my the only other option because I'm not seeing him,
let's
and
hope
I
he'll
don't
pop
know
up
what
at
to.
some.
Yeah, let's
Hopefully,
see
he'll
if we
pop
can.
up.
Okay.
Brendan, let's while he's trying to work that out. The games over the weekend, there were a lot of really good ones, and Florida goes out to Texas and just gets bombed 49-17. You got no DJ Lagway. You put in a third teamer, a Yaley, in there at quarterback. The team that I thought I had Ole Miss to beat Georgia, I thought it'd be a little closer, 23-21. Um, and I sit there and I say, wow, how is Georgia losing these games? Well, look at that road schedule. At Alabama, September 28th. Then they play at Texas a few weeks ago. Then at Ole Miss. That's the three toughest road games they've played in a long, long time.
Right.
But if you look at the trend, I look at the moving chart. Carson Beck in his last 4 games has 10 interceptions. He had 1 Saturday, but he had 3 the week before. Their running game, they're struggling. Their defense is always going to be there, but the defense gives out after a while if you're not putting points up. The only touchdown Georgia got Saturday versus Ole Miss was after an Ole Miss turnover in the first quarter. I'm sure Georgia fans are mad and pissed off about what's going on.
I don't
You
know.
look
I
at
think you gotta have felt like I feel like it was coming.
yeah,
I feel like it was. I didn't think. I mean, I think a lot of us picked Georgia to win it all, but I think it doesn't matter. I mean, everyone's losing. No one's gonna run the table.
no.
Everyone's gonna have 2 losses. So if you're gonna lose early, lose midway. But for anything else, it's really about the story is Lane Kiffin getting off the schneid, isn't it? Isn't he
Yeah.
is like finally like making the win that matters?
Well,
And
yes, because his record versus teams that finish the season with 9 wins or more is 3-20. Now, Georgia this year will win 9 games.
right.
So that'll be 4-20. But this was, believe it or not, in my opinion, it was his first major league signature win in his 5 years at Ole Miss. And he's a hell of a coach, offensive, genius, we call him. But this was a
But
significant win.
this validates him, right? So like
Well,
this is
yeah.
like he is now king of the portal.
Yeah. He's now what it
He,
validates.
he proved that you can make it. You can do that. You get the balloons. I don't have my own, but
Yeah,
you get the portal.
Well, we've been saying for a while when they went on the road to South Carolina a few weeks ago, when they played LSU, it's the portal is on trial if you're going to do it as heavy as Lane Kiffin does. One of my Ole Miss friends told me in January when Ole Miss plays their last game, bowl game, playoff, whatever it is, 41 players will depart from Ole Miss's football team. And Coach Johnson, glad to have you back on here, man. We're going to get all this stuff worked out. But if you can hear me, I know you had your 50th reunion of the Citadel over the weekend. You didn't get to watch a whole lot of the games, but like I told you last night, you've forgotten more than most of us know. Georgia, I have had them preseason picked to play Ole Miss for the SEC championship. They met on the field Saturday. Ole Miss got the better of it, 28-10. Georgia ain't going anywhere. Ole Miss isn't going anywhere. That tiebreaker, man, what is it, a bare knuckle boxing match to determine who goes to Atlanta? I mean, I think it's going to be like pretty intense.
Well, I've read over it and tried to figure it out, and it may just get into 2 or 3 different points, as they go down the list. I'm not so sure Ole Miss is out. They're kind of hot right now, and they can win out, and some other people have some work to do. Georgia looks like mathematically, I know what you're talking about. They both got a hill to climb, but fading that they've been playing really good football all through the year defensively. They're not as dynamic as they have been, and they can't carry this football team. The threats at receiver to go deep, and that's really drawing games not as wide open and so forth. And it all goes back to the fact they can't open up, protect him well. He's not a great quarterback that can run around with his feet, and they protect him well, but they don't have a running game to help him, and I don't think he has good receivers. So I agree with you on that one. I don't know. It could be a mad scramble. You tend to throw a wrench into it all.
Yeah, and you look at this. I mean, look at Alabama. They came back from a lot of people had written them off, and they're now 30, 10, and 2 all time in Baton Rouge. The UABR, University of Alabama at Baton Rouge. You played down there as a coach. That's an intense place. Ron Higgins is going to be joining us here in a few minutes. I know we're kind of off schedule a little bit, but Ron's an award-winning writer down there, the Shreveport Bossier Journal. His dad was the sports information director 19 years at LSU, knows that program well. They are there at the beginning, but boy, in the fourth quarter, that place was fairly empty except for the huge mass of Alabama fans that were there. What does that say about Alabama? What does it say about LSU from your perspective?
Well, LSU was sort of like a seesaw this year. They didn't the year that it really got about 3 or 4 in a row there. But then the last 2 weeks now, they've just not been up to the challenge. I don't know if Alabama came in knowing they were going to run Bill Rowe, or if they found a soft spot and just started pounding it. But I don't know. They just didn't seem to have an answer for it. It was like they didn't want to adjust to it because they'd seen Alabama throwing the ball all over the field to the little wide receiver, and they weren't going to get out of the game plan. It was kind of strange. But to watch him make successful runs over and over again, over 20 yards, 30 yards, 60 yards. I thought they'd beat them down there. I never lost to LSU as an Alabama coach in Baton Rouge. I don't know what it was. We were able to handle it, I guess. And I've been down there with 3 other teams, and it's a tough place to play, especially the Citadel. but it's just not a tough venue for Alabama. I didn't think it was going to be a game to start with.
Coach, can you remember a big guy quarterback, 6'3", 6'4", who can run like Jalen Milroe? I'm talking almost sprinter type speed. He's just unbelievable. Now, Cam Newton was a freak of nature. We all remember that. But I said before the game against LSU, I said, if Kalen DeBoer tries to make him stand in the pocket and call 50 pass plays like he did up in Knoxville against Tennessee a few weeks ago, he threw on 45 of them. 19 of those targets went to Ryan Williams, the freshman out of Saraland, Alabama, right above Mobile. But I said, just let him do what he does, then they can beat LSU. Get your thoughts on him. Then I'm going to bring in Ron Higgins, who's a great longtime writer down there in Louisiana. And this is a great – what a year is all I got to say.
Yep, I totally agree with your analysis on Alabama. And I said that about Milroe several weeks ago, not to jump too far off the subject, but the kid at South Carolina, Lenore Sellers, is going to be just like him. He had his growing pains early in the year, and it's not hard to look back 12 months ago and where Jalen Milroe was. And Saban put him on the sideline the second or third ball game for a whole game. And I think that kid's going to be just like him. But someone asked me the question the other day on one of these, who is the quarterback you most like to have in the SEC to finish it out? And I said, well, if they're all playing really well up to their talent level, I'd take Milroe. So what I think about him. I think he's very difficult. I don't think he's as good as Cam Newton, but I think he's good.
Yeah, I'm just saying as a runner, as a passer. I mean, Cam was the total package.
Yeah.
Coach, let's bring in Ron Higgins from the Shreveport Bossier Journal. Ron, Coach Ellis Johnson's on here with us right now, and we had a little bit of a rough start here with some technical issues. Anytime you do anything live, but Ron, one thing I love about you and Coach, y'all are truth brokers. You know the game, and you tell it like it is. And first off, Ron, thank you for taking time, as I say also to Coach Johnson, to share with us on Veterans Day. We all have veterans in our families, in our friend groups, and thank you to all of you. Notice the red, white, and blue on this screen here. But, Ron, jump in here to this conversation.
Well, LSU had a whole week to prepare for Jalen Milroe, and they knew what he was about since he killed him last year. The guy now has 8 touchdowns in 2 years against him. LSU has struggled all year against option quarterbacks. Starting with South Carolina. Arkansas did a decent job. But A&M failed. Marcel Reed failed. And this was a big-time fail. And even worse, LSU's offense has really gone down the drain the past couple of weeks. So I agree with Milroe. The guy turns the corner and he's gone. He has obviously he has more weight than Jaden Daniels did, but he has Jaden Daniels type speed. And I think he's an underrated candidate for the Heisman. Hopefully he'll finish really strong here. And it's not too late to make a push to win a Heisman, but I know that's not Jalen Milroe's objective right now. In a league that could have an 8-way tie for first place when it's all over. So, I thought he was great. LSU knew what he was going to do, and he still did it. That's the mark of a really, really great player when the defense knows what you're going to do, the stadium knows what you're going to do. Everybody on TV knows what you're going to do. And then you just go do it. He was fabulous. And then just credit to him. A great performance. He's had over 600 yards total offense against LSU the last 2 years. Basically, you say one of these games by himself, but basically you give him just enough blocking. And look, when you have 104,000 people going crazy, and on your first running attempt, you just walk through a defense 39 yards for a touchdown like nobody's there, and then he does it like 3 more times like that. Yeah, it's disheartening. And he did again. Credit Alabama, great job. Plus, he can tell. I mean, when you talk to this kid, you know he's a really level-headed, good kid, which is what you like. So, kudos to him and Alabama for playing a really good game.
Yeah, Coach Johnson, as a defensive coordinator, did you like being on the field or up in the box with the coach comm? What's your preference?
It didn't matter. Of course, I wasn't using these helmet microphones, which I've heard a lot of the coaches are stopping. But I liked the view from the box because it's sort of like you watching film all week from that same view. Yeah. But you have to have really good guys down on the sideline that can make the adjustments, and also their demeanor with the kids and everything, because you're constantly up there saying, tell Joe to get his you-know-what over here on that whatever. You detail telling them everything's going wrong, and they got to get it done down there. I think it's harder on the sideline, but there were times where I felt like because of the youth of our defense or other factors, I needed to be down there. And but I preferred it up in the box.
Coach, I'm going to go back and forth with you and Ron. I got 2 really smart people, and then Ken Capps, Football Writers Association of America, is going to come on from Texas in a few minutes. But, Coach, let's talk about that Georgia Ole Miss game. Ron covered from the Memphis commercial bureau for a long, long time. Great writer, award-winning writer. So I'm going to tap into y'all's brains. Coach, Georgia Ole Miss, looking at Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin, the way he coaches, the way he's building the team with the portal. I think Ole Miss with portal and high school and everything, like 41 guys in January are going to play their last snap. They'll be out of eligibility. Compare that to what Dabo's doing at Clemson and Kirby's doing at Georgia. Man, what he's doing seems to be working, especially on the defensive line.
Yeah. Rob, we've talked a little bit about this subject before. And
Yeah.
for every Ole Miss, I'll give you a Florida State. And for every Dabo, I'll give you one that's not working. And I know everybody says Clemson's not working, but a lot of people would take that record right now. They had one terrible ball game against Louisville. So we'll see how they finish. I don't know. I was looking at South Carolina the other day. They're going to have to pay this freshman rush kid, edge kid, tons of money, or the people are going to raid him. And the other kid, the guy from Georgia Tech, I think he's through. In fact, I think he's playing a red shirt fifth year. So it's just, I don't know. It's just the way it is. I would not mind dealing with NIL, but I would not want to deal with the portal as a coach. I don't like the fact that when kids can walk in and out of the door all the time, I just don't like it. It's even worse than pro sports where they got contracts.
Yeah. Ron, looking at that Ole Miss Georgia game the other day, and again, you know the SEC really, really well. You're one of the best writers in the country. When I read something, I remember it. And I'm going to throw some stats here. And, when Georgia beat Ole Miss Saturday, last year Georgia beat Ole Miss 52-17. Lane Kiffin said, I've got to get better on the line of scrimmage because we got one 5-star on this team. At that time, he said Georgia had 24. A year later, I had Georgia and Ole Miss picked to play in Atlanta, and I'm still sticking by that for the SEC championship. Think it's going to end up like that?
I'm still going to go with Texas and somebody.
Yeah.
Listen, Ole Miss had played a great game. It's good for them. I'm old school. I still don't think you can build a sustainable program in the long run. Now, you can have a hot year and fill your team with portal people and have a hot year, but then you're going to have roster imbalance like Kiffin's facing.
Yeah.
And I still put a value on high school guys. There's still a place for – you have to have good high school recruiting classes as your base.
I agree.
Okay, and the portal fills in stuff, but you can't every year rely on 25 or 30 portal guys.
Yeah.
I just – I could be an old guy and wrong on this, but I still believe the basis of your program is really good high school recruiting for sustainability in the long run. Again, you can recruit a whole new defensive line, and that's what you need. But then you have to go recruit that whole new defensive line every year.
Yeah,
and that's a problem. Again, kudos to Ole Miss. But again, this is the same old Ole Miss team that lost to Kentucky, the one that folded up in Baton Rouge against LSU. In this league, you win a game 1 week, and you beat somebody, and everybody thinks, "All right, they're on their way." This program's unbelievable.
Yeah,
So, that wasn't a landmark game for Ole Miss. I give them that.
Yeah.
But in this league, you win one game 1 week. It doesn't really mean anything until you get to the end. And the end is where you find out stuff. November is where you find out how much depth you have. November is when you find out how you finish this race. And believe me, this is the most serious race I've ever had. When you have, like I said, you could conceivably have an 8-way tie for first place, which is absolutely mind-boggling, ridiculous. But again, hats off to Ole Miss. But I don't know if Ellis agrees with this or not. But Ellis, I just don't think you can. A sustainable program has to have really good high school recruiting, and you can't go buy 30 portal guys a year and think you're going to win championships every year or have a level.
I totally agree. And I don't know in this culture they've created, I don't know that you can do it the way Dabo's doing it. It's got to be a balance, but we'll find out. And as we said, Florida State bought a football team, and it just didn't work out. And now the coach is fired. Guys, back before all this started, we didn't even like to take a junior college player and get into a 2-year cycle because you knew if you took one, you're going to have to take another one behind him. And that's what's happened with the portal. the portal teams are becoming 1-year cycles, and you cannot manage that multiple years in a row. I just don't think you can do it. I'm really worried about South Carolina. I think this is going to be a flash in the pan for them because of the people that are going to come in and raid that program and the 5 or 6 difference makers he may have to replace. I totally agree with you, Ron. Some of it's coming from just my emotional feeling about it, but I think analytically, I think you're exactly right.
I want to throw something out.
If you make bad portal purchases, it kills you. I mean, if you look at LSU with the defensive backfield for Kelly's first 2 years, they had to buy portal guys as DBs, and after 1 year, a couple of decent ones, they played one and done, and then this last year they made a bunch of bad portal purchases, and with defensive backs, and it just killed them. And so this year they're trying to. They have one portal guy out of the portal from A&M as a safety, but now they're trying to build it through their freshman class and recruiting, and they're trying to, Kelly's trying to do it the right way. He really believes in high school recruiting, and he was forced early to do a lot of transfers because Orgeron had emptied the program had 38 guys on scholarship and he left. But I know Kelly believes that you have to have great high school recruiting to have a sustainable program. And he's old school in that way. And he's got a lot of good guys committed. We'll see if they'll sign. Of course, now it's a free-for-all. What's disappointing now about college football is I get the whole portal thing, and I'm whole NIL deal, but guys are never. I think guys aren't committed to schools until they graduate, because they're never committed. Really, they're always for sale now. You're always for sale.
Yeah.
I tell people this all the time. I say I'm not surprised a guy run an out route and catch a ball on the opposing sideline and get up and see the opposing coach say, "Hey, I want to play for you next year." And then run back to the huddle. That's how much for sale this is, and that's the part about college football right now that it's just not appealing. And as much as I love the game, and maybe the portal has created all this, just everybody's. All the records are the same. Maybe they created that, and that's great. But I just find it awful that nobody has any loyalty, and they always say, well, coaches don't have any loyalty; they leave. Most coaches don't leave until especially a head coach, unless you get fired. Okay, coaches, they're in it for the run. Okay, most coaches are in it for the run, and they're invested. They're invested in their kids and the program and development. And the problem is now, if you're a coach in college, you're trying to invest in kids and you're trying to develop them, and you don't know if they're going to be there next year or not. And that's disheartening. But I get it. That's the way it is now. I understand the parity being created by the transfer portal. But I still believe in high school recruiting. I think that's the basis that's the only way you can continue to have a championship level program every year, is to have good high school recruiting. And the portal's a fill-in. I just don't think you can go so portal heavy where you recruit 25, 30 portal guys a year and expect that you can have roster balance. And then I think people forget about having a balanced roster. And then all of a sudden, like what Ole Miss will be like next year, that Lane will have to go crazy recruiting people like South Carolina. People, it's like they almost like they sell out for 1 year. And then you hope you can do it again. In basketball, you can do that. Okay, the roster is smaller. You can do it in basketball. You can, you can bring 5 new guys in. But Cal started that a long time ago, and before all the portal stuff. And Cal was the creator of that.
Yeah.
But you can't. I don't think you can do that in football every year and expect to be championship level. I just don't.
Yeah.
I get it. I'm archaic and old school, but that's who I am.
You're not, Ron. You're right. And I'm going to say this, Coach, I know you've got to get going because we're running behind a little bit, but Coach Johnson, Jackie Sherrill, I love him. I was talking to him a couple of weeks ago when he was here for the Touchdown Club, gave a great talk in Memphis. It was fantastic. And he talked about 1 year they signed 17 junior college players at Mississippi State, and 14 of them, he said, eventually went on to the NFL. But that 97 to 2000 run at Mississippi State was the best 4-year run, I think, in Mississippi State history. Then 01, 2, and 3, he ended up getting out of coaching. You go up here and then bam, it's like, drinking a Coke and you get that sugar high, unless it's a Mexican Coke with pure cane sugar, which I prefer. But you go up and then you just fall. And it's like in the military. That's why you have 3 or 4 year contracts. My father-in-law from my first marriage said it takes 18 to 24 months to build a cohesive combat-ready unit. And in conflict, a lot of times you're sending them over there 5 or 6 months in. It's not wise. How can you build a culture without trust? And Coach, I'll just let you close out, with that answer, and then I'll let you go, and then I'm gonna bring in Ken Capps. But thank you so much for sharing your time with us. And man, I don't care what we got to do to get you on. We will do it because you are fantastic.
I tried to start 20 minutes early on it today.
I know.
I still screwed it up. So
No, you didn't. Coach, don't worry about it.
But, and on top of it, I agree with almost 100% of what Ron said. And on top of all of that, guys, I think when you see all this unexpected losses and a little bit of up and down play, that's always been a little bit of a part of college football. But when you see it in all of these teams now, I think, and I don't have any empirical evidence to prove it, it's because kids don't stay somewhere. They run over to another program so they can play. So when you lose your left guard or your right corner, and maybe even your quarterback for 2 weeks, you don't have a guy that can step in and keep the level of play from dropping too far. You got a guy that, isn't ready to play because he went over to another school for another $100,000. The other thing I think it's possibly because y'all can't believe, I know you do know, but the amount of time these pro scouts spend studying players before they give them money, and college coaches, and a lot of them have a special coach devoted to looking at college players on other teams and keeping up with that, but it's not the same. And they're giving kids hundreds of thousands of dollars that they don't know the background on them. And quite often now, an old saying was, if a college lets a kid out of there, he's got a problem. If he was not a problem, they've done anything they could to have kept him. So there may be a little bit of that too. But I don't like it personally, so I guess I find ways to try to, talk about it. But I just think Ron made some great points. And I think you're seeing a lot of things that are boomeranging off of this portal stuff. The NIL thing, I like to see players get paid, but not the way it's going on now. They let that get off the guardrails, and if they don't fix it, it's going to be a cancer that probably destroys college football as we know it.
You imagine being 20 years old, $500,000 in your checking account, what a weekend would be like. Let's just say this. You are probably tired a lot of mornings when you get up from being up all night doing who knows what. I'll leave that to your imagination. I was 20 before. I mean, Auburn was 6 of the best years of my life. I was double redshirted academically, Coach, I love your honesty, man. And I know you got a big day ahead of you, but let people know how they can follow you, because we're going to talk to Ronnie Sanders this morning, and I love watching that podcast that you do on Auburn Undercover. You put out so much good information, and Ron, I got to say, I agree with you 110%. I'm going to outdo Coach because you're right, and you're honest. Both of you are, but Coach, love having you on here.
I appreciate it, and thank you for mentioning Veterans Day earlier. I was hoping Dave was going to be on this morning. That was the first thing I was going to wish him, because I don't know how long he stayed in, but I'm sure he had to do his obligation out of West Point. So happy Veterans Day to all the veterans, and I love being on, and I apologize about all this technical stuff that delays us. I'll figure it out one day. I thought we had it last week, and now this week it started again.
We will get it, Coach. Anything worth having is worth fighting for. All right. Thank you so much.
Right.
All right. Take care. All right, guys, what I love the most about what is happening in college football, and Ken, Ron and we've been talking with Coach about it, is just the debate, it goes on and on about Is the portal good? Is NIL good, or what have you? Ken, from your perspective, you cover Texas. You know Oklahoma. You know Texas A&M. What about Texas and the NIL? And what are they doing? How big is Texas into the portal? I know they lose guys, but does Sark like it?
Well, let me start out by saying I really want to give a shout out to all of our veterans out there today. I've just been thinking a lot about it all weekend. Incredible flyover at the Texas Florida game down in Austin. Of course, Memorial Stadium turned 100 years old this weekend, and it was originally dedicated to all the veterans of World War One, and then went on to be dedicated to all veterans that are from the state of Texas. And so just really, really proud of that. Not to mention, Rob, if you guys look on my Facebook page today, I posted a picture of my dad that my 84-year-old aunt just found last week of basically his first days in the Army Air Corps in 1944. And she sent that to me from Lebanon, Missouri, last week, and I didn't know what it was. And so I opened up this big brown envelope, and I mean, it stopped me dead in my tracks. I just couldn't, I mean, it took my breath away just looking at my dad and 18 years old and going off to war in Europe and just thinking about all these young men that are still doing it today for us. So I just really wanted to say that before we run out of time at the end. But
No, we're good. We got, yeah.
I was listening to y'all's conversation, and see, here's the interesting thing. And Ron, I agree. You know, Ron's right. Y'all are right about just about everything, except that Texas, A&M, Oklahoma, the schools here in Texas, you know, the schools in the Big 12, you know, Tech, Houston, all these schools, we have it so lucky down here because we are the number one, high school recruiting ground in the country. And you draw a 2-hour circle around Austin, and heck, or 3-hour circle, because that includes Dallas and Houston. I mean, you can get 99% of your players without leaving the state. And, there are so many kids that grew up, with a Texas Longhorns pennant in their bedroom, an A&M pennant in their bedroom, and all they've wanted to do their entire life is be an Aggie or a Sooner. And so that's why you see the schools here in Texas and Oklahoma, because Oklahoma gets a lot of kids out of Texas, most of their recruiting class, quite honestly, because we have it so darn lucky that we live in a great place that loves college, that loves high school football. And, the kids are just everywhere every year. So, the way Sark looks at the portal is he's just looking for need. Okay.
Yeah.
So he's not out there. Just trying to bring in a bunch of folks, just to bring them in. And I think what I really like what Sark does, and again, you can see how he's built the program here in the last 2 years. He is all about culture. So he's just not going to bring in some kid just because he's good. Is he going to fit into the Texas culture? The kids that are from the state of Texas that play for the University of Texas, that put on that Longhorn, burnt orange and white every week, they're pretty serious about the state. So if you're going to come in from Michigan or California or somewhere, you better be bought in to the state of Texas and what it means to play at the University of Texas or at A&M for that matter. So I really like the way that both schools are doing it. Now, of course, Texas, has just, they can spend whatever they wanted on NIL. And that's another thing that, people are very envious about. A&M can too. So it's just a matter of, plug and play for Texas. And, and here's the flip side of that. And we talked about it just briefly last week. Jonte Cook, 5-star wide receiver out of DeSoto, Texas, right here in the Metroplex. Huge, great high school here. He couldn't crack the rotation. And so, and plus I had heard that there was some, I don't know, discipline, something going on down there. I don't know. But the bottom line is, by mutual decision, quote unquote, he left the team last week. But he was sixth on the depth chart in the wide receiver room. So and so, you know, and already, even though the portal doesn't open until the 9th, Ole Miss, Georgia, and Oregon have all put out, and Ron, you may have seen this, have all put out little social media things like, "Hey, Dante, you know, we'd sure like to see you come our way." And you know, I guess that's legal. You know, just, you know, giving them a shout out. But so yeah, I think that you know, we're just so, it's such a unique situation in all of college football for us, and maybe also, Brendan, you know, state of Florida and the state of California, where those schools have just such enormous amounts of great high school football players that they can pretty much pick their entire you know, pick their team every year right from their own, you know, state boundaries.
To Ken's point, Ole Miss has to do it the way they do it.
Great point.
They have, if Ole Miss has any shot of a championship, Kiffin has to do it the way he does it.
Yeah,
they don't have enough high school players in the state of Ole Miss, state of Mississippi, academically qualified. Now, I remember I researched this. I mean, I think the average ACT score in the state of Mississippi is the lowest probably in America every year for 40 years straight. Okay.
Yep. Correct.
They have to go, and now that the portal's open, now they can go buy people. That's how they have to do it. I'm not criticizing Kiffin for going portal heavy. Okay.
Yeah.
Is John Calipari once said, "I'm just playing by the rules they're giving me." Okay.
Yeah.
And now that you can go legally buy people, that's the way. If Ole Miss ever has a shot at winning the championship, and I'll be honest, if the portal hadn't come along, and Allen hadn't come along, Ole Miss wouldn't have any shot at all for the rest of mankind. Okay, they wouldn't. And that's not being critical of Ole Miss. Those people work hard. They have good facilities, but they just live in a state where there's not enough really good high school football players and academically qualified ones at that. And they're all forever the really good ones have gone to Alabama and LSU and Georgia and Florida. They don't want to stay there because they don't have the shot at winning the championship. Well, you know, money can change some opinions, and you can buy some players that way. And look,
yeah,
and that's what Lane has to do. And not being critical. I mean, well, do they have roster imbalance? Yeah, but see, he has to go do this again and again and again and again. And I don't know if any coach wants to do that annually and just get worn out. I mean, I don't know if Kevin's going to leave this year or not. I don't see any openings. But any coach, all they want to do if they go somewhere else is they want one is to make sure they're in a good recruiting state for high school football. Otherwise, you don't have a shot.
Yeah.
I could see Kiffin going to Florida State. I could see him eventually doing that. It's in Florida. It's a great football recruiting state. I mean, there's places you want to go. But like I always say, this is not, you know, brain surgery. The past 50 years, the same teams have challenged for the SEC title. Why? Yeah. They're in states that have good high school football. Alabama, Georgia, LSU, now Texas. You know, I mean, the same teams. I mean, in Florida, I mean, it's the same teams. But you have to have good high school football. But understand why Ole Miss does it the way they do it. And look, and you know, if anybody can pull that off, it's Lane. But to do that every year wears you out.
Yeah.
And eventually, you just say, "I can't do this anymore. This is killing me." I got to find a situation where I don't have to just sweat this stuff every year where I've just got to go buy 30 or 40 portal people. But I understand that's the way they have to do it. And good for them.
Yeah. Ron, you just laid out such a great argument. Again, you sound like a great trial attorney. Let me say something real quick about one of our sponsors here. It was brilliant. And I'm going to add something to it. Winter Timber Outdoors in Athens, Alabama. They are open 7 days a week. Went down there to the store last Wednesday. It is a big and it's a great looking store. Over 2,000 shotguns, rifles, and handguns in the store. They've got decoys. They've got your deer hunting gear, duck hunting, quail hunting, pheasant, turkey, all hunting. They've got the gear. Bottom line is they're going to grow in the footprint of the Southeastern Conference. They're breaking ground Thursday on their next store in Auburn, out on the Opelika Highway by the mall. You will see it near the Walmart. Winter Timber Outdoors, Kenny Winter, the great people there. A couple of things you'll notice. When you walk in there, they're all trained. They know the products. They know how to help you. That is critical, okay? Cost is only an issue in the absence of any added value. Wherever you are, hit that QR code, Winter Timber Outdoors. And also want to say something about another great sponsor, LandersFordMemphis.com. Proud to have them on the team. They're open 6 days a week, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. in the sales department, service department, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday. So they're open 6 days a week, except on Sundays. The number one Ford dealership in the Mid-South. And Brad Bellamy, the general manager, he comes on the show Fridays and talks football with us. Make sure you ask for him. He's the quarterback. He'll hand it off to the right salesman and connect you and walk you through the process. Their name is on 6 stadiums just in the Memphis area. They're also the title sponsor of the Touchdown Club, and they do great work with St. Jude. They're the only dealership in the country that provides the cars themselves and does it all. Landers Ford, where their motto is, if you didn't buy your last vehicle from Landers, you probably paid too much. I'll throw something at you, what you just said, Ron and Ken, with Ole Miss. It's like a business. How do you want your business to work? Do you want to build it up with fee-based business where you annuitize your book of business where stuff's coming in every month? Or do you want to have to start every month or every year at zero and have to go out and do it all over again? You want that steady. That's why you work from the high school ranks. So I think this has been some of the most light and enlightening conversation we've had in a while about this subject. Both of y'all are just spot on, as was Coach Johnson. Ken, looking at Oklahoma, and Ron knows that LSU program, but Ron, I always like to say, you know the SEC. I mean, you lived in Memphis. I mean, that's a gumbo of SEC fans. You know, you go to Birmingham, you got Auburn and Alabama. Memphis, everybody wants to fight with each other. Ken, let's say you're out there in Dallas at the Touchdown Club. SMU, they got them a big boy football program now.
Yeah, they do.
A small pony, but a big time program. But
yeah, they do.
The money that's out there. But Texas and A&M and SMU, they've always had money, but they don't win the championships like they do in the other SEC schools. Is there a heightened sense of urgency now that they're in the league? Are you noticing that? And I'm going to go back to Ryan with LSU because they recruit Texas. They consider Houston on over to be part of the state of Louisiana.
Well, no, I think there's a state of urgency with everybody to win the championship. You know, I mean, I heard Ron saying that he's sticking with Texas to be in the SEC championship game. You know, I looked it up over the weekend and did a lot of research yesterday while I was watching that awful Dallas Cowboys game. And, you know, there's only, oh my God, that was, I said, gosh, am I going to watch the Cowboys or do my homework on sidelines? I think I'll do my homework on sidelines.
Thank you.
But I just turned the sound down. I couldn't stand it anymore. But anyway, you know, Texas, Tennessee, and A&M, as of today, are the 3 schools that control their destiny. Okay, that can all change this Saturday because Tennessee plays Georgia, and Texas goes to play Arkansas. That will be the deadliest trap game, fiercest stadium that Texas will play in this entire year. And, you know, look what almost happened with Oklahoma and Missouri. I mean,
wow.
I mean, and you know, look, Jackson Arnold, you know, been treated, you know, so up and down all year, fumbles the ball late. And, you know, Venables actually was criticizing him after the game, but, you know, OU snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. And I said that last Friday. I said if OU was going to win a game in its last 3, it was probably going to have to be Missouri for them to make a bowl and not break their record of which would be their 26th straight bowl. Now they ain't going to a bowl unless they somehow, unless nobody from Alabama or LSU shows up in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I think there's an urgency with every school, and I think that there's a real urgency at Oklahoma that, man, they got to get their act together here soon, because I'm very surprised that Oklahoma has not responded better in the SEC. And I know, I've got a lot of my kinfolk on my wife's side are from Alabama, and they kind of begrudgingly look at Texas, especially after Texas came in there and beat Alabama last year. But I think there are a lot of SEC fans that are a little, disgusted already with Texas for already, being here in the year 1 and being in the SEC, or definitely in the SEC championship hunt. So, But again, all that stuff doesn't mean a thing, because we just saw this weekend, like y'all been talking about with Ole Miss beating Georgia. Georgia can turn right back around and be right back in this thing, and they hold the tiebreaker over Texas. Yeah. So, I mean, there is so much urgency, Rob, right now, and I think that's what even makes this game even better right now.
It is. Ryan, it's got to feel like taking a drink of water from a fire hose right now when you, as a writer, both you and Ken, the best writers. My friend Dan Barron, who's now down at WWL in New Orleans, at the radio station down there, but he ran stations in Memphis. We went to school together. He went to Alabama. I went to Auburn. He said, your best guess, Rob, when you start your own show will be the writers. He said, I'll tell you why. Yes. Yes. He goes, because they think about what they're saying because they've already written it. That's how I learned. My mother would make me write things on paper, even though you could print it off of a printer, but you wrote it. And the great writers are the smartest guests you will ever have. So, with that being said, Ryan, when you come on sidelines, it's like you're the national weatherman on the Weather Channel going, as you can behind me. So, Ryan, we're going to go all over the place. I love it when Ryan, I'm agreeing with you, because you'll say, I may sound like I'm an old man, just grump. No, because you're right. You didn't get as far as you've gotten in life, and you haven't had the success, nor have you, Ken, because you're not smart. It's because you're smart. You're ahead of the curve. Kind of break down the SEC, and do you want to take a guess at that tiebreaker formula for who goes to Atlanta? Because we got to.
First of all, I got to figure out that damn tiebreaker formula. I was reading that the other day too. It was giving me a headache trying to figure it out.
Yeah, it's so screwed up that there's a scenario where there's an 8-way tie, and the team in the SEC championship game are LSU and Alabama. Yeah, LSU LSU doesn't deserve to be anywhere near Atlanta. Okay, nowhere. Or I mean, there's teams that aren't championship teams, and that's one of them. I mean, you'll know in the next few weeks. I still think Georgia's a championship team. I know Texas is a championship team. I go down the line. It's like one time there was a basketball coach named Tom Nasalki. I think Tom Nasalki, only coach ever to win titles in the NBA and ABA. And Tom coached a minor league team in Memphis. He was just great to sit there with. And he could just sit there on the sideline and look at players like in a preseason practice. And he'll say, well, he can play. No, he can't play. He can play. Yeah, he can't play. He didn't need analytics. He just looked, that guy can play. He can't play. And I really believe you look at who's left. I still think Texas and Georgia are the two best teams. I just do. I mean, you have blips. Yeah, Georgia lost at Ole Miss, but you can't. Are they as good as in the past? Maybe not. But you can't tell me a team that's won as many games they've had in 3 or 4 years suddenly gotten bad.
Yeah,
they still have championship DNA, and I mean, Texas is
great
held
point.
up. Good for Texas. By the way, Texas won its first SEC championship yesterday in soccer.
Yes.
The
Girls
first of
soccer.
many, okay? The first of many they'll
Yes.
win in for. So all the
Yes.
SEC fans who go, "Whoa, coach," are like, hey, they're making your league look a hell of a lot better. So shut up, okay?
Yeah, I agree.
They're
Hey,
getting a lot of
Ron.
stuff. They're
Hey,
getting a lot of
Ron.
things. They're good in volleyball. They're good.
They're good in everything.
Be happy they're in the league. I'm happy Oklahoma's in the league. They'll make
I am
the
too.
softball better. They'll make a lot of
Oh
stuff better.
yeah.
Be happy these teams are in your league. If you love the SEC, these teams make a great league just even more obnoxious to the rest of the country, which is not a bad thing.
So true.
I appreciate
So
it.
true.
I wanted this year. I thought Texas would be much better than Oklahoma in this league. I thought Sark was much better in the way he recruited his team, preparing for an SEC, having SEC level talent than Oklahoma did. So what Oklahoma has done is not a huge surprise. What Texas has done, not a surprise. I thought Texas would be a lot better because Sark had been in this league. He understands the athlete that takes the win this league, and he recruited that way. And look, I mean, there are some weeks that they could play a team in the SEC, and just to make it fair, they could lend out the younger Manning to the other team as a quarterback to make it a fair game.
Yeah.
I just think.
But let me tell you, Ron. Ron,
yeah.
Ron, I'm just saying. I think Sark came from the best. I mean, came straight from Alabama's national championship over here to Texas. And, the thing is, he's thinking, he's not, I'm just so impressed with how he thinks because everybody wants to keep goading him on to talk about the SEC championship. I know they will today at his noon press conference. And he's going to say, look, we got to focus on Arkansas because, I mean, it was, beating Florida was a big deal. It was 42-0 before Sark decided to let off the gas. Ewers passed for 300 yards, 297 in the first half. He passed for 5 touchdowns, which is one short of the record that Colt McCoy and Casey Thompson set, years ago.
Yeah.
But they took him out with 7 minutes to play in the third quarter and put in Manning. And he wasn't going to run up the score. He's not that kind of guy. He cut it off at 42. And but of course, again, too, you have to have those style points. That's one of the things that I don't like about this is that Texas was favored by 21. They had to keep scoring. And again, I'm throwing some kudos here to Brendan. Florida's banged up. I didn't think Lagway was going to play at all. But look at it this way. Okay, just like you were talking about before I came on, Ron, everybody thinks Texas is a world beater right now. They can go up to Arkansas and stink it up this weekend. Ewers can throw 3 interceptions. And, and those Hogs are going to be, ready to roll and kick Texas right in the, in the steers, what. And so I'm not, I'm just not willing to pull the trigger on saying who's going to be where. Because, I love it every week. If you want to play a drinking game, make sure you have on your card, a lot of football left to be played. But there is still so much football left to be played that we really don't know who could be in that SEC championship game, Rob.
Yeah, we're going into late January for college football this year. I mean, being the host of this show, I feel like Dick Clark on New Year's Eve every morning. I mean, it on Times Square. It is so much fun. And obviously, in the interest of full disclosure, y'all know I'm an Auburn grad, but I love all these schools. I'm married to Evolve for life. I had 3 kids, Auburn. Mallory's Alabama, still a good person. I mean, and that's the thing, Ron. I'll be at the Touchdown Club tonight in Memphis, and it will be, they'll raise your hand. It's the United Nations of college football fans, Memphis, and every Catholic, no matter who they pull for, there's an and. I'm an LSU fan and Notre Dame.
Right.
The priest used to in mass say, the luck of the Irish. But you can't beat college football. And Ryan, what are you writing about right now? Shreveport Bossier Journal. You've got such a great background. What I love about Ken, he takes all these notes before he comes on, and I know you do too. You've got them in your head. But what's your lead story right now heading into week 12 of this awesome-ass college football season?
Well, this past game, Louisiana's governor found somebody who could bring a tiger to the game, a live tiger.
Yes.
It wasn't really Mike the Tiger. It was a tiger named
Omar. His name was Omar.
So basically, the lead of my column was there was a fake tiger in pregame Saturday night in Tiger Stadium, and then a bunch of fake tigers stayed on the field for the rest.
And that his trailer was really too small for Omar. I think he was kind of tight in there.
Yeah, it was tight. So I think right now I could see LSU losing to Florida.
No.
I mean, you don't. Hey, you don't
I
think
could.
so? But they're making the same mistakes every week, and they haven't gotten better.
Yeah.
They had a whole week to prepare for Alabama, and it looks like they'd never even seen a football field. And I mean, I understand it's a team I cover. I get that, but I try to look at it objectively. They don't look as good as they were 3 games ago against Arkansas. They don't look like the same team. It looks like they've gone downhill.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been because of injury, because nobody's really gotten hurt. Nussmeier suddenly looks like he's lost out there. LSU has beaten Florida a ton the last few years. They've owned Florida.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't surprise me if Florida won this game. Florida hasn't given up. I mean, I know it's been a tough year for them. I get that. Their quarterback's been hurt, and they've gone through people, and then the whole Billy's going to be here, not be here, the whole deal. But I really think this is a game that Florida can win. LSU's only a 4.5-point favorite, and listen, most time Vegas is pretty damn smart on their lines. Honestly, I mean, how many times you watch a game like, oh, they're crazy, and then the final score, you go, damn, how'd they know? I could see LSU not playing great this game. Look, there's something about LSU that people look at and they think LSU gets a lot of kudos for how great its offensive line is. It's a great offensive line. They've got 2 first-round draft choices at tackle. Well, both those first-round draft choices had holding calls that took back big plays that night. Both those tackles and the rest of the line can't run block worth a damn. They can't. And it's a one-dimensional offense, and if Nussmeier doesn't throw the ball well, they're done. That's basically LSU's MO. So, but this week, I'm writing how even though it's a really small window for them to still get in the championship game, how are you going to play out the rest of the year? This is where you find out about your team when there's really not much hope left there's no playoff and you go to the bowl. So how many guys on your team are going to check out mentally? How many guys are starting to think about, one, either am I going to go pro, or other ones, should I get in the transfer portal? How many guys are going to check out from the rest of the season? That goes for any team that may not. There's some teams that are right at this point that they'll be happy to get to a bowl game. Okay,
right?
Okay, and there's other teams like LSU are like a bowl.
Yeah,
So right now it's damage control for all these coaches who are trying to keep their teams together, who don't have a shot to playoff.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where LSU is, and that's probably where a lot of teams are.
Correct.
But you have 8 teams that could tie for first place. So there's other 8 half in the league who coaches have got to figure out how to keep their teams together. And there's overachieving teams. Obviously, Vanderbilt's overachieved.
Yeah.
South Carolina may be the hottest team in this league, and they've lost 3 games. Look, this is a difference in this league. It's so small. If Lenore Sellers doesn't get hurt in the first half against LSU, South Carolina has 2 losses, not 3, and they're in this thing.
Yeah.
That's
how small
the edge is.
Yeah.
That guy doesn't get hurt. LSU doesn't win that game, but he
Yeah.
got hurt. LSU won the game. That's the margin of like being in a championship race and then being one game out. And when you're the hottest team in this league who just knocked, I mean, after you lost to Alabama, like you knock off Oklahoma and A&M back to back, and then you go to Vanderbilt and win there. I mean, so it's just, that's what I love about this league, man. Everybody says they know what's going to happen every week. You don't know what's going to happen every week.
No, you don't know anything.
Texas will get Arkansas and get blown up. You know,
Correct.
Georgia got blown up at Ole Miss. Okay, it's Georgia's turn to blow up Tennessee. It's like every week is supposedly a college playoff elimination game.
Yeah.
Hopefully, sooner or later, we'll get to the fact we actually have two teams that can go to Atlanta. Because right now, I don't know who the hell's going to be there. I do think Texas will be there. Besides that, I don't know who.
Yeah, I want to say this too real quick. Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee, open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Guys, they got over 7,000 pairs of the best-looking boots you've ever seen. They've also got work boots, Duckheads, Filson, Barber, STS, Pendleton, Schaefer Outdoors. They can get boots repurposed when you take them out there to Hewlett and Dunn. I love the owner, Charles Hall, his wife, Laura. They're just great people. J.M. Huffman, Raven, Squidward, the whole team out there. They've got college wear. They've got acres down south. I'm going to tell you one thing. The boot collection out there, it's the best. And that's the turtle box right there. We've got two of them. You can make them do dual stereo. I dropped mine in the water on the Spring River, guys, back in late August, trout fishing up there. 3 times it went under, and it came back up 3 times. Not to be confused with that old Hank Williams Sr. song, I'm going down in that river 3 times, but I'm coming up twice. I can't sing, guys. I'm admitting it. But Ryan Higgins, and we're about to wrap. What's your dog's name?
Skippy. Skippy's happy because he beat me in football picks this week. He was 7-3.
Wow.
I was 6-4, and he picked Ole Miss. And I figured I picked Georgia, and I figured out why he picked Ole Miss because Skippy's a rescue dog. That means he knows what it's like to be in the transfer portal. So
hey, you know what? And Skippy chose my wife. We've picked up we got a couple of strays right now. And Audrey says they chose us, you know, kind of like, wow. And we're so, I love, my mom says, I love dogs more than people. I'm like, why? She goes, because they don't talk back and they're always glad to see me.
Exactly. 100%.
Ryan, my dad is 96 and mom's 89. Every day he goes, boy, I looked on the schedule. They only got 3 games listed. I said, Dad, there's like 60 games today. We need to get back to having the paper delivered in the morning. I'm telling you, people, when you read, you start your morning off reading and you are well-versed in what's going on. Your day goes better. It's like you've got to plan your day. People don't plan to fail, but they do fail to plan. And when you get up and you read the paper, or the most intelligent people that I know are the ones who read a lot. So I love it. And I'll say this too. Ole Miss is number 20 on the 24/7 college football talent composite. It's kind of wild. But look, there is Sammy Bones. Look here, Ron. It is Dog Day Monday.
Hey, Dad.
Chino, Dog Day morning. I love it. Hey, I've got the cow dog, Daphne, is in her cage, and Delta's too mean to come on the show. But, no, hey, I don't know, Brendan. Ron thinks that LSU, that Florida has a good chance. They're only a 4.5-point dog to LSU, speaking of dogs. But, Ken, as we wrap up here.
It's because Ron doesn't like, everyone likes to come on this show and be like, oh, it'll be fun to take the Gators this week. Yeah, what the hell?
No,
Yeah,
because you guys don't have to follow them all week. But like,
I've just seen the past 2 weeks of LSU football where
have you seen Florida?
They've digressed. And you know what? LSU's beat Florida enough in the past few years where it's got to even out a little bit sooner or later.
Right.
I think
does it? That's like when you keep selecting D in Scantron. You know, it can still be D. You know,
yes,
D again and again and
When
again.
in doubt, pick D.
You can have, Ask Dan
Stop
Mullen who's
looking at the
responsible.
pattern and start looking at the facts.
LSU's responsible for getting Dan Mullen fired. He lost LSU 2 or 3 times when he shouldn't have.
Yeah.
I just think sooner or later, LSU's in a point for season. They're trying to hold their act together at this point because they're just about out of it.
Yeah.
Florida's got nothing to friggin' lose.
Well, it's not been so good at Florida lately. I don't know if you've heard.
Well, I know that, but it's like, look, they already said they're not going to fire their coach. They got nothing to friggin' lose. Let's just go play, boys, and let it rip. With the quarterback out there, you're not going to win with the quarterback you had out there on Saturday. You're not going to win.
Well, and it's not fun when there's allegations flying around about your head basketball coach. That doesn't.
Well, that's not good either. But welcome to Baton Rouge.
Yeah,
this has been the
back at
well,
home.
Ron, let me throw one at you, Ron. Ken, you heard what he just said, and I agree with you, Ron. LSU looked like they hadn't seen a football field. Here's what we've got nowadays. We got an offensive line that Pro Football Focus is doing backflips about, and they can't run block. You ain't going to beat anybody running for 35 or 40 yards. And
I just miss Les Miles and fake field goals.
There you go.
Just really shitty calls in big games.
Put it this way.
But like really gutsy and ballsy calls.
Yeah, but
Demetrius Byrd.
Double reverse, coach.
But
triple Lindy real quick.
But the whole thing is he didn't even know probably it was even going on. Until it was over. Like, was that we just played a field goal? We just
one of those guys that was like on I don't know.
The gutsiest call
taking acid or something.
The gutsiest call Lester Miles ever made. The 2007 Auburn LSU game. When Demetrius Byrd, a junior college transfer out of Miami wide receiver, it was at the 25-yard line, and he calls that pass play in the corner. I'll never forget, Ron, I was driving my son home from a birthday party. He was in like 2nd or 3rd grade, just burst into tears, and I had to pull over and get him some ice cream. He was like, "Gah!" But, guys, all of us, where Ron is. Ken is in the parking lot of a 7-Eleven there in Dallas. We don't have them in Memphis anymore. I'm going to tell you what, I would love to start doing trading cups at a convenience store of SEC teams. And remember the old DX trading stamps?
Yeah.
You fill them in for every player on a roster. We've run out of time. But
no, you're fine. I wouldn't say that. What I was saying is, well, first of all, I was trying to look up Les Miles' record against the University of Florida. That's where I am in college football 2024. That's where my brain has gone. You've gone too far when, as a media person, you wear a cowboy hat and you start searching Les Miles' records against the Gators. And you double down with AI to cross-reference how much of those games meant something, power rankings that time of year, and then it's endless, right? And then you just keep pairing. And keep going. That's where I am because I'm a sick person. I have issues and I love college football. And even Urban Meyer said last week, God, it's kind of freaking great, man. This whole 12 playoff game, it's kind of great. It's going to be great. Stella, wish everyone
Ron.
Happy Veterans Day. My daughter.
Hey, Stella, happy Veterans Day.
Are anyone veterans?
My son was a veteran. Yeah, my son.
Is that the one that went to Mississippi State?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And thank you to your service.
Premier soccer stud. Travel
down there in Ocala, Florida.
Hey,
let me say something, guys.
Florida.
You travel and the parents that go out on these road trips, it's unbelievable. But we're going to wrap up now. But I tell you, the interest in college football, Ron and Ken, it's unbelievable. Ron, tell people how they can follow you, keep up with all your great work. God, I wish you'd come back to Memphis and we would have you as a writer. But we get this show together.
He said,
we get these round tables going. They're awesome. But let them know how they can follow you, Ron, and then I'll do the same thing with you, Ken.
Down, Ronnie, I'm so kind of town. Ain't nobody like Rob Brown.
Oh yeah. Yeah, right. Ron, how can they follow
number
you?
one man with a plan from Tennessee. There you go. That's what I got for you. Come back. All right, go ahead.
All right.
Shreveport Bulletin Journal, ShreveportBulletinJournal.com, TheRonHiggins.com. You can read all my stuff. You can see Skippy the Wonder Bichon outpick me every week. So that's where you can find it.
I love it. Ken, is Ken still there?
Yeah, Ken, he did an
Ken,
Irish goodbye.
All right. And Ron, thank you so much for taking time to join us, and to your son, tell him thank you for his service, what he's done. They do it for each other and for us, and we're blessed for it. And Ken, how they follow you?
Just at FWAA.com and at Texas Six Man
back
Canada.
over there, and we'll get on the call of the road. We'll get a convoy going. You know, that's how you follow Ken.
Yep. Well, Ken, look, we're going to talk later in the week about six-man football too. Ken covers a lot of six-man football in Texas. But look, God bless all of you. God bless America. We live in the greatest country in the world. Veterans Day is a special day. If you see a veteran out, pick up their tab at lunch. Buy them a round of drinks if you're at Alex's Tavern or some other great bar. Remember Alex's Tavern, Ron? 1445 Jackson?
Yeah.
Can't beat that place. But
anybody in Texas, go buy Ken icy, okay? It could be 7-Eleven. Get him icy.
Yeah, I want an icy. Executive producer Brendan Martin, thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow, folks. Thanks for watching.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shoppe health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.